technologists can take more detailed pictures today than they've ever taken in the history of all of whatever. And then I cite this article. This article is not about cameras or about camera tech. I don't know if Celeste Biever knows anything about camera technology. That's not what the primary focus of this article is on, even though that would be a true statement that I could directly cite from here. It's not really what this article is about. It wouldn't be a good citation. I don't know how to make people understand that. People do this so much, and it's so annoying. I'm sorry, I hate that. The judges and all them, when Abrego Garcia or whatever, I think was being, when they figured out if they could issue a temporary holding or a holding against being removed or whatever, it wasn't like he was being charged with the crime of being in a gang, and now, beyond a reasonable doubt, we're going to fight on whether or not he's in a gang, and the state's gonna prove that, right, as part of this criminal trial. That's not what was at stake in any of that. So because that wasn't at stake, you can't just cite to that and pretend like this was a beyond criminal doubt, or this was like a conviction or something that was hardcore adjudicated on, because if that was the case, my guess is they probably would have fought it a lot more in the past, you know? Like probably in some, this doesn't hold cleanly because my case is civil, but like I'm sure in some civil filing, and because Pixie's lawyers misspell everything because they're constantly having strokes and seizures over there, they like if they spelled my name wrong in one of them, I think they put Bonnell with one N or whatever. If somebody in the future goes to write like some kind of receipt for some arms dealer and the last name is Bonnell, and then somebody, you know, cites my case with Pixie in the future and they're like, well, Stephen Bonnell, we know that he goes by two names. He goes by Bonnell and Bonnell, and we can tell that because it was ruled that way. And when I think it's like, excuse me, no, it wasn't. That was a minor part of the filing. If I would have known, if that would have been the primary holding, if that would have been like the substantive issue, then we would have gone way more into that. I don't know how many, I need to think of a snappier way to make this, I hope you guys understand me. Destiny, wouldn't it be cited as an example for uses of new cameras? Potentially, yes. What Clover the horse said. You could potentially cite that article maybe as like, here's examples in how new cameras are being used. Although even at that, I would be careful because that article wasn't specifically about cameras, and it could have just been that they have more detailed pictures because of, maybe because of a medical advancement. It might be the case that camera technology hasn't improved or it's stagnated, or it might be the case that they found a way that they could induce, you know, some kind of sleep shit in the fetus, which makes it hold still longer, which gives them the ability to take a better picture, and that's why they have higher quality images, right? So that would, but you don't, that's what I'm saying, you gotta be really, really, really careful when you're quoting an article for a thing that's not the primary subject of the article. Somebody keeps saying it's called the fallacy of incomplete evidence, aka cherry picking. I don't like to call it cherry picking because it's more insidious than that. It's different. It's different. It's not just cherry picking. It's quoting something that's entirely true, but you don't really, it's not really what the thing is about. Yeah.
Once that finding was found and upheld on appeal, he would be stopped from challenging that.
Like what he's saying right here, found and held on appeal. What, appealed that he was part of a gang? That wasn't, that wasn't the case, what the case was about. Like,
now that Trump has designated the guy as MS-13 rather to be a foreign terrorist organization, he's not eligible for withholding of removal anymore, so he'd simply have lost no matter what. And the second reason is that in the interim,
at the risk of getting yelled at, what kind of AR did you end up getting? Why would you ever get yelled at for asking a gun question here? I'm embarrassed because I don't know how to say the name of the company though, so I sound like a retard when I say it. I think it's Giesel? Giesel, it's an AR-15 from Giesel. 14.5-inch barrel, I think with a 1.5-inch muzzle to weld it onto the end.
Between the time he got this withholding of removal and now, the 18th Street gang, which supposedly threatened his mother's pupusa shop, a preposterous story from the outset. So between the time he got this withholding of removal and now, the 18th Street gang, which supposedly threatened his mother's pupusa shop, a preposterous story from the outset, that 18th Street gang is no longer effective in El Salvador, which was the basis for his supposed fear of persecution, which is why the withholding of removal was granted in the first place. So he wouldn't, so the outcome wouldn't have changed. This is what we would call, you know, to analogize, harmless error. The second reason it's substantially just is because the guy's a wife-beating MS-13 gangbanger.
Yeah. Okay, so this guy is an actual fucking retard. God, I hate these people. Oh. Could you explain the MS-13 finding case in short for people who aren't following? What was determined about Garcia? Somebody would have to link it. We'd have to go through it. I skimmed this a long time ago, but I think it dealt with him advocating for why he couldn't be removed back to El Salvador. But I don't remember all the details. Somebody would have to go through it. But he wasn't like criminally charged with being in a gang.
And who exploited our laws for 14 years. And in fact, you know, the more that comes out about the guy, you're realizing, like, just what kind of person he is, threatening his wife and children, telling them that, like, you can't leave me because I'll kill you. Funny thing, I was reading a book about MS-13 and a different...
There's that saying, he's pounding the table right now, right? The meme saying is when the I think the meme lawyer saying is like, when the law is on your side, pound the law. When the facts are on your side, pound the facts. And when neither are on your side, pound the table. This is neither law nor facts. Like, he was a wife beater, like, because she had a restraining order one time, but this was years ago. They're still together. Seems like they're fine. She's not dead. She's not walking in with marks all over her body. I don't know where we're getting that from. So that doesn't seem to be relevant at all here. This is just, whenever you see somebody engaged in this type of behavior, it's because they don't have anything else, right? When your strongest advocates on the other side are just engaged in these like weird ad homs or things that aren't central to what is being discussed, then you know it's because they have nothing else to go on.
Like, just what kind of person he is, threatening his wife and children, telling them that, like, you can't leave me because I'll kill you. Funny thing, I was reading a book about MS-13, and a different MS-13 game banger did the same thing about a girlfriend he was dating. There's this...
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
Sort of the underlying entitlement. But... you know, substantively, just obviously a very bad dude, a human trafficker, the kind of person who drives people, you know, from Texas to Maryland who don't have any luggage. Do you think those people have free will? No, those are captives. And, you know, we can get more into that later.
And we will. There's one more man joining us tonight to make sure that there's a little bit of chaos and humor.
Yes. Well, it's Primetime 99, and I just want to say, you know, Pisco, you are very smart, but you're still a libtard. And, but no, I agree. I actually agree with you on this because listen, whether it was unjust or not, we got the outcome that we want. His big booty Latina is staying in the country, and we need to do this as, you know, a lesson to these other gangbangers and Trinde Arruga adjacent people that
it is the most disgusting type of shit. Okay, like if you're an incel MAGA dude online who's so ass pained that women don't want to touch you with a 10-yard stick because you've got your proud like MAGA, I voted for Trump, okay, and the only thing you can find are 40-year-old overweight moms with 3 different baby daddies, and you're like, oh, why does everybody hate? It's because you laugh at things like this. This is the #1 incel magnet, like women repellent, like laughing at like these types of like the most disgusting comments. Like this woman, and they have a family as well, right? I think they have a child. Her husband is being deported, and you're making sexual comments about her. Like, it is the most unhinged, especially from the type of guy who basically killed his mom and then made footage off of it because he told his dipshit mom not to get vaccinated and watched her choke to death in her own fluid in a hospital bed. It's just the most unhinged type of shit you can ever do. It's so disgusting.
As, you know, a lesson to these other gangbangers and Trinde Arruga adjacent people that if you come to our country and, you know, you bring your big booty Latina, we're going to kick your ass out and keep her. So I think...
Alex, the Latina in question is a U.S. citizen.
I know, but still, she's still a big booty Latina. I'm saying it doesn't matter.
I mean, if the goal is to protect the U.S. citizen Latina from the predations of the MS-13 gangbangers...
I'm saying protect even illegal or legal big booty Latinas. They carry the same weight in my eyes. I guess not apparently to you. So I'm saying, yeah, she's a legal big booty Latina, but he learned his lesson. They don't get to go back to El Salvador or wherever you get kicked off to.
And that's exactly why Alex is here.
Yes.
But we are going to be bringing up members of the audience, people who have submitted who want to join this debate, and give you guys a chance to have your thoughts heard on this matter. But I suppose the question...
I think the appeal argument is bad because it wasn't an Article 3 judge, but immigration judge. If a judge finds that I'm a member of a gang so I can be deported, isn't that a good citation? If it was like central to the thing, there's just... The thing that's like centrally being evaluated and for what purpose is just, it's really important at all stages because it's going to inform the way that you react to stuff, the way that you fight stuff, the stuff that you fight for, and then how people should view those past decisions. Let me ground this out in an example, okay? Let's say that somebody, fuck me. Let any tort, okay? Somebody accuses me civilly of something, okay? Example a little. And let's say that there's like a question about, well, fuck, actually, we can ground this out in a super real example. Somebody accuses you of something, and they, so toward is civil cases, right? Somebody wants to sue you for something. And then let's say somebody does that, and let's say that they, there's a contentious issue relating to, we'll say a Discord log, okay, some type of chat program. Maybe it's the case that, well, if it's a civil case and two people have a disagreement over whatever, you know, maybe you have screenshots, maybe you don't, maybe whatever, you just don't care that much, right? And let's say you go to court and you lose your civil case, and it's like, okay, well, I lost, and then you have to pay the other party $10,000, like, okay, whatever, that sucks, okay. If people in the future go back and they go, oh, weren't you convicted of a crime? It's like, no, hold on, that was a civil case. I was not convicted of anything. And you might say, well, hold on, that civil case was about the thing that guy said you were convicted of, right? It's like, yes, but the forum that they were in there was for a civil case. If it had been a criminal case from the start, maybe when there was some contention over like images on Discord, maybe the approach would have been like, hold on, well, this is a criminal case, so now my freedom is at stake. You might send subpoenas to Discord to pull information. You might start contacting friends, family members, other people. It's like, does anybody else have a screenshot? Does anybody else see this? You might bring on witnesses to testify to seeing conversation. You might approach that way differently, such that maybe you would have even won the civil case if you would have taken it more seriously. That's all I'm saying, is that if you've got like an Article 3 judge or immigration judge, or you're adjudicating based on whether or not this guy's in a gang or not, that's a much different thing than saying, you're going to be deported from this country if you are a gang member. Like, if that was at stake, there might have been a different approach to dealing with that 5 years ago when the guy was, when the judge was just like, yeah, this guy's probably a gang member, so blah, 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 you know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense.
To kick it off, simply, to either of you who...
Somebody said also it was a second or third hand hearsay at a bond hearing. There was no cross, no discovery, etc. My understanding is it wouldn't be given any deference in any other related trial. Collateral estoppel requires that things are litigated. It can't just be something claimed at some point. Oh, sure. Okay, yeah, that would be too. Oh, yeah, because this was from an informant or something. And the informant, it was like hearsay from an informant. Yeah. Remember, hearsay is bad. Hearsay is bad because you can't introduce an unquestionable set of secret facts, right? I know that Stephen is a murderer because John told me that he saw Stephen murder Jane. And it's like, hold on. Well, I want to cross-examine you. What did John say? John said that you murdered Jane. Okay, did John really say that? Yeah. Okay, well, me, I guess, right? I need to bring John in. I need to ask John questions. I don't care what you say John said. This hearsay. He heard him, and then he's saying it. He heard him say it, and he's saying it back to me. That's bullshit. I need to be able to bring in John because I have a right to confront my accuser so that I can question him. I can perform my own examination or cross-examination so that a jury can hear me. You know, I can assess his character. I can assess the validity of what he's saying, right? That's important. That's, yeah. But I don't believe any of that was even available to him. But it wouldn't need to be available to him at that particular bond hearing as well. So, okay.
Who wants to start? Was the deportation just or unjust?
It was unjust. It was illegal. Do you think that doing
those aren't synonyms?
Wait, so
Those aren't. Don't mean the same.
I understand that, but in this context, do you think it was just for the Trump administration to do an illegal deportation? Yes or no?
I mean, in these circumstances, it was. The outcome was just.
I'm asking if the deportation, if you think.
Well, I mean, it was mistaken, so
Well,
they conceded that it's a mistake, right?
So was it just to do a mistaken illegal deportation?
I mean, the actual substantive outcome here is a just outcome. It's like, I don't want the administration.
Whether the outcome was just or not, is
Right.
the action, the mistaken, in your words, mistaken illegal deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So you actually
Mildly unjust?
The resolution be
You
worked out.
actually agree that it was unjust. To be clear, everyone here agrees it was.
Wait,
To
hold
be
on.
clear,
The resolution be
you
worked-
deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So you actually it's mistaken illegal deportation just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So
Wait,
state-
what is- hold on.
outcome. It's like, I don't want the administration.
Whether the outcome was just or not is the
And it's so queer and so bizarre, especially for a lawyer to be outcome oriented like this. Like, motherfucker, if we only cared about outcomes, your entire profession wouldn't exist. We would all just go in front of a judge and scream at each other all day. The process is essential to beg, even if the outcome is correct. Like, what a Brady is it a Brady violation where if a prosecutor doesn't make available to the defense some essential evidence that they could use to formulate a different theory for their case or whatever, or that could be relevant to their defense? I think it's a Brady violation, right? Where the case can get completely thrown out. That's what we saw happen with, fuck. I want to say Alex Stein. It's not Alex Stein. The guy that shot the Girl. Fuck. Say the name. All the Trumples hate him. Alec Baldwin. Thank you. Yeah, or with people like OJ, right? If police are fucking with the evidence or chain of custody or whatever, even if you have the quote-unquote right outcome, it can get tossed if you're not following the correct procedure. And the reason why, like, a lot of people think that, well, oh my God, it's just the procedure. Oh, I see this a lot. People are like, oh, they got off on a technicality. No, those technicalities are important. They're technicalities because they're part of the set of rules and people are playing within that set of rules. And if you break some rules to get a quote-unquote good outcome, well, if the other party knew that they didn't have to play by those set of rules, there might be a totally different outcome. They might have done things way differently, right?
Right.
The action, the mistaken, in your words, mistaken illegal deportation, just or not?
It's mildly unjust. I actually.
So you actually agree. So to be clear,
the resolution be
you
looked
actually
at.
agree that it was unjust. To be clear, everyone here agrees it was unjust.
No.
Well, okay. So Tim, do you think that the deportation was just to do an illegal action?
See, what you're doing right there is I'm just going to say, that's not debating. To load the question with, I presume it was illegal first, now answer.
Do you agree it was illegal?
When did you start beating your wife?
Well,
This is such a stupid fucking... I don't know what the point is of this. I guess this is like the retard's way of trying to pretend like you're sneaking in some assumption. When did you beat your wife? Like, if you fuck up and answer that question and say, last week, what the fuck? You would just say, like, I don't beat my wife. If somebody says, do you think this unjust deportation was okay? And you disagree that it was unjust, and you say, I don't think it was unjust, then you would just say that. How are you getting tricked into answering the question? Like, and they just went through the Trump administration, or at least the litigator representing the Trump administration. The attorney himself said that it was a mistake, so...
do you agree it was illegal? What's loaded about that?
So the issue is it a crime to make a mistake?
Not a crime. Was it illegal? Was it illegal, yes or no?
No.
9 justices on the Supreme Court unanimously, Will and I, both lawyers, will tell you it was illegal. Will, it was obviously illegal.
It was an illegal deportation.
It was an illegal deportation.
So hold on. You're saying that it was illegal because the Supreme Court said it was?
No.
It's emphatically the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is. That's Marbury.
Does the Alien Enemies Act supersede...
He wasn't sued under the Alien Enemies Act, or wasn't deported under the Alien Enemies Act.
Stephen Miller claims he was.
No, he absolutely wasn't. He's not a Venezuelan. The proclamation for the Alien Enemies Act only applies to Venezuelans.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Say again.
Does the Alien Enemies Act apply to El Salvador?
The proclamation
Or
issued by the
MS-13?
president.
No.
The Alien Enemies Act only works against enemies of the United States, and I believe that enemies of the United States are defined as nationals belonging to countries that we are currently at war with. It only applies to people of Venezuelan nationality. So yes, the Alien Enemies Act can only be used to deport Venezuelans. That's it.
Only to Tren members who are Venezuelans. By its terms, the proclamation by its terms, even assuming it were legal, would not apply to them.
Yeah, this is not an Alien Enemies Act question.
So the question is, do you agree it was illegal?
If the argument is the Supreme Court said it was illegal and that's your basis for it, then I agree with you, yes.
Okay. Do you agree with the president or the executive
The thing
department?
is, everybody agrees it's illegal.
Well, he just... Wait.
What? Where are we at in this debate? Okay, yeah, obviously. Oh, well, if you just want to sit here and argue over whether or not it was illegal or not, okay, yeah, duh, I guess. Yeah, it was illegal. Oh, okay, well, Pisco should just drop the mic and just fucking run away.
To be clear,
No, I believe it was an
for a while
administrative
said it wasn't.
error, and the issue is we're talking about the semantics of what it...
Administrative error. Like, look at how minor it is. Look at how minor it is when it's like, you know, yeah, he got deported. It was just an administrative error. You know, shit happens.
means to be illegal, right? So is it illegal to smoke pot? Yes. Is it unjust? No. People can smoke pot if they fucking
Okay,
want to.
so that's why I'm asking you, first, if it's illegal. Now you agree it is illegal. Fair, right?
In the context of which, so the first thing I was trying to do was understand your view and how you're viewing what illegal means. You're saying, as a subject of law, as the Supreme Court has ruled it, we all agree the Supreme Court did in fact say it was illegal.
Correct.
Agreed.
Okay, so if it's the case that you think that this deportation was illegal, do you think it was just for the
Yes.
Trump administration to do an illegal deportation?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like I think it's just for someone to smoke pot.
Okay. So if they did the same thing to a U.S. citizen, though, obviously you'd think it's unjust.
Yes.
Okay. If they killed Kilmar Abrego Garcia, would you think it's unjust?
Yes.
Why's that?
Killing.
Can he bring this up? Is he going to mention Obama? He wants to so badly. He wants to so badly.
Yeah. Would you think it's unjust?
Yes.
Why's that?
Killing people is one of the worst crimes, in fact.
Okay, so
Obama killed 4 American citizens.
There we go.
Fact check this.
There it is.
you thought that was wrong, right?
Absolutely.
So then why don't? So if it's the case that you thought that was wrong, wouldn't it be wrong, for example, to put Mabrigo Garcia in prison for the rest of his life without an opportunity to like have a case?
No.
Okay.
You see, so let me try this real quick. You're trying to equate, say, Barack Obama, right? He extrajudicially assassinated a 16-year-old kid without charge or trial. I mean, if a dude cracks a grandma over the head with a baseball bat and kills her, I say lock that guy up. If a guy accidentally runs a woman over, then we say there could be negligent homicide. There's degrees of whether the crime is bad. Is it justice in some circumstances and not when a crime is... Not all crimes are solved in the same way.
I'm not alleging that it's a crime.
They not all rise to the same level of retaliation.
I'm not alleging that it's a crime. I'm saying it's illegal, and the Supreme Court found that. And right now, what we have, this is what the Trump cult does to you. This is what the Trump cult does to you.
What's with the ad hominem?
So this is what it does to you.
It's
You
a
are
cult.
defending
It's a cult.
an illegal deportation of a human being who has the right to have his case heard. The basic essence of due process.
Funny thing
And if
is
you
he actually, I mean,
deny it of anybody, it will be denied of you in the course of time.
No, it won't. He's not a citizen.
So if
And
you're
he was
deported,
previously adjudicated as an MS-13 gang
that's
member.
false. You brought it to
No, it's not.
The strongest argument I think that should be brought out every single time, in my opinion, when you say he's not a citizen, the strongest argument that can be brought out is like, okay, and I feel like you should force an answer on this. Did Trump or did he not sign an executive order trying to rescind birthright citizenship? Because if he did, then why would you assume naturalized citizens are safe? Clearly, the administration has at least signaled that they have an appetite for being able to deport naturalized citizens. What about the children of naturalized citizens? Like, you're in such murky waters at this point. To be able to say like, well, fine, they're just provoking due process for some people, not like, how do you know where that's going to stop, my dude?
So there was a finding that he was an MS-13.
No, so
Absolutely.
You brought up collateral estoppel, didn't you?
Yeah. He'll be stopped from challenging.
So of course not. Of course not. So this. So I know because I have to say a lot of these lawyers like file shipwrecked, and they get shipwrecked as a lawyer, and it's garbage. And the truth is there is no collateral estoppel here. What is the finding that the bond court hearing made?
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
If someone does something illegal, is that just or unjust?
Depends on the thing.
Sometimes unjust, sometimes just. It depends.
If someone does something illegal, should they always be held under? No. Okay, so we agree that the real question here is not whether it's just or unjust, whether we think the penalty should be severe or not.
No. So I agree. Not all illegal things are unjust. I'm asking, in this case, is this illegal action by the Trump administration just or unjust? And you said it was just for the Trump administration to do an illegal deportation.
Now,
I'm going to ask you why. I'm going to ask you why.
Right. Let me answer that. So the first thing I got to say is, you keep loading this as though illegal is the pretext by which something would be just or unjust, which is why I asked you, is if something is illegal, is it just or unjust?
It can be. It depends.
Then you don't need to say, am I okay? Why am I okay with Trump doing something illegal? The question is the deportation.
No, I do need it because I think as a standard, right, there's a threshold here that in the main, when the government does something illegal, we're going to presume it's unjust unless you can reach some threshold. Well, think about it, right? So if this can't just be a game of we let the government do whatever we want to people we don't like. We're fearful of the government wielding power in the main because of structural reasons. There's a reason. There's a reason. For example, you believe that someone who's accused, for example,
Like, imagine how weird and cucked this is right now. That Pisco is up here as a libcuck arguing against a bunch of people who are arguing in favor of an authoritarian dictator state that arguably were born from the Tea Party that was ostensibly a libertarian movement within the Republican Party. Like, how weird is that? Jesus.
should be given a trial, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why is it that? Why do you think that someone who's so horrific, and if everyone agrees that this person, why should we give them a trial?
An American citizen gets a trial.
What about an illegal alien?
They don't.
So you don't think? So just to be clear, this is where we're at now. You don't think that crimes that are committed in this country by illegal immigrants, that they should have trials for those crimes?
The penalty.
Well, no, we do have. Wait. To be honest, we do have trials for.
Hold on. So The penalty for an illegal immigrant typically is, for most who cross within 2 years, is expedited removal. That means their due process is an immigration officer will determine whether or not they're here legally or illegally.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about crimes. We're talking about crimes.
And yeah, so when we get someone here who like or murder somebody, why are we going to spend taxpayer dollars when the outcome is going to be you get sent out of the country?
Pisco, the response to this is incredibly simple. You're like, even Tim hasn't thought. I don't know how these people have shows and think about politics all day and they don't even survive like level 1 questions. Like, okay, so hold on. Tim, you're saying we shouldn't waste money having trials because they'll just get deported. So if an illegal immigrant comes to the United States and then rapes and murders 100 children, then the punishment for them would just be deporting them back to whatever country? Really? We would have no criminal trials for people that commit crimes against U.S. citizens on U.S. soil? Really? That's your advocation for? He would immediately back off this. He's like, okay, well, hold on. Okay, fine. Maybe for some crimes we would try, right? Like, it's such a stupid point.
Tim, so actually, a lot of times, we deal with this. We want them to be prosecuted so that they actually face a punishment instead of getting deported.
Yes.
So we actually spend a lot of taxpayer resources.
Wow, good job. The Dumb and Dumber. Okay, figuring out, well, hold on. Actually, wait, that might actually be really retarded.
On prosecuting illegal immigrants, at least in Texas.
But like, I just want to dwell here for a second. The Constitution says that persons in this country get trials if they are accused of a crime before they're punished. No, it does not say that. You can read the Constitution.
Let's clarify the fact. Does it say citizens or persons?
Right. So, for example, the different parts.
Let me ask you this though: in the case of Abrego Garcia, do you think that is a sweeping policy that's being used to deport mass amount of people, or
is this what is a sweeping policy?
Well, I'm just saying the pretext that we use to deport Abrego Garcia. I'm saying, do you think that is being used right now to deport a massive amount of people, or is this an isolated incident in your opinion?
I don't think it's an isolated incident. I don't think it's relevant to the question presented, which has to do with his. But I will answer it.
Well, I'm just saying, few. When you make an omelet, a few eggs are going to get cracked. I'm just saying there are going to. It sucks how it is.
Just bite the bullet and say yes, it was unjust. Of course.
Yeah, this is a stupid argument because there is a world where we can accept that, okay? Because everybody will make mistakes, fine. But you're not saying, the problem is you're not saying that it was a mistake. You're saying that it was necessary and that it was good and it shouldn't be rescinded. If you have to, even if you say crack a few eggs to make an omelet, that's not really a good analogy, although it's a popular saying because you have to crack eggs to make an omelet. Like, if you made a mess while creating something, you clean the mess up. You don't leave the mess there and say that was the original intent. That's the issue here, right?
So it's unjust. We don't want the government in the main unless there's exceedingly like crazy circumstances to violate the Constitution, right?
Real quick, but do you think it's going to be used in a massive way? Or
it already is. It already is.
But who else? What other examples do we have? I know you talk about the cancer girl, but they actually were allowed to stay. So when leftists say that they were forced to leave, they chose to go with their family. They were 100% allowed to stay in America, so we didn't deport a cancer person.
If you guys are stuck in your echo chambers, and again, I think that there's some of that going on here.
Don't insult the audience like that.
So if it's that case, then you wouldn't know, for example, that this U.S. citizen, there's a parent here. There's an opportunity that people have basic due process rights to see if, like, I don't know, an aunt wants to care for the U.S. citizen, or another parent has parental rights and the right to have custody over the parent or the child.
In the instance you're referring to, the mother requested the child.
So I don't know which case. There are multiple cases of U.S.
There's
deportation. One of which the mother denies that's what the outcome that she wanted. But regardless, just the policy that we're talking about is with respect to people who are not citizens here. And you asked if it's like a mass policy. They're already by the Supreme Court again unanimously saying that these people are entitled to due process. You guys don't think that. You guys don't think that there should be due process.
I don't think that's.
Everyone thinks they're entitled to due process. The question is what processes is due, and it's extraordinarily limited in the context of legal immigration.
But Tim just said, even in the context of criminal. So Tim just said.
What are these
in the context of a criminal indictment, that there should not be trials for people who are here illegally. You don't agree with that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
See, hold on. This is a really good example for media literacy. What he did is he is falsely framing the arguments, redirecting it. What I'm saying is, there is no trial required for a crime committed by an illegal immigrant because they'll get an expedited removal before a trial can take place.
You're conflating.
No, go back to what Alex was saying. Tim, you don't agree with this statement. Tim, there's no world where you would be okay with somebody committing some crazy horrific crime in the US and just getting a free deportation back to another country. You would never agree with that. It's a literal get out of jail free card. What the
an immigration hearing which is civil, and I agree. There's no. So you guys don't get confused, all right? I'm gonna teach you something.
I'm not conflating anything.
Immigration law and a removal proceeding is not a criminal matter. Okay, that's different than the criminal proceeding.
true
Yes,
as well.
I agree. You don't need trials. That's why JD Vance is full of shit. We need trials.
I gotta stop you. You are actually making a mistake. I am aware you are asking for a criminal trial for, let's say, an illegal immigrant who committed a murder. I am arguing that we will deport that person back to their home country, and then we're not going to hold a trial for him after the fact.
So you wait. So you're gonna take a murderer who committed a crime in this country.
Thank you.
You're not gonna subject him to punishment in this country, and you're gonna send the murderer back to El Salvador just so he can cross the border again and murder someone?
Well, that's why Trump has CCOT.
Oh my God. That's why Trump has CCOT. So then every single person that's deported is going to get deported to El Salvador's prison of fucking labor camps? Like what? What? Okay.
Listen to you.
Well, hang on, that wasn't embedded in your hypothetical there that he would go to CCOT.
You presented information to the argument that was not previously included in it.
Which was
the
what?
The argument is an illegal immigrant here gets deported first.
Are they deporting everybody to CCOT or just Alien Enemies Act? Oh no, it's anybody that they want, I guess. How do they even decide who goes to El Salvador?
Before he goes to trial for murder? Come on, guys.
How do
He
you
should
have
go
a
to trial for
criminal
murder.
trial for someone who's not in the country?
Wait, so we do, this is high priority for our government to spend money on trials protecting U.S. citizens, and it's one of the, our common things as a turn. Guess what?
Actually, hold on. Let me give a hypothetical to Tim real quick, though. Tim, this is where I think you're wrong. I'm sorry. So, would you have rather had Laken Riley's murderer just deported, or are you happy that they had a trial and got convicted?
Deported.
That's crazy. So you trust Bukele? You trust this El
disagree with
Salvadorian
that.
guy?
Yeah.
Wait. Just to be clear, you trust
I'm
you trust
happy
El
that he didn't
Salvador to
punish.
keep this guy in jail? This guy committed a crime on U.S. soil, and you trust El Salvador? You trust El Salvador? Yeah. Here's the problem. What happens if Bukele decides this guy goes free? What happens if they overthrow Bukele? It's so.
I got it, guys. I figured it out. We secure our border.
What are these stupid f***ing signs they're holding up? What do these mean? Oh my God. Do you hold them up when you agree with the guy who says it? Or like, does Tim have a 20?
In this country, there's justice for crimes. And what you're talking about isn't justice. It's for the purposes of expediting something, but it's not true justice. For example,
I actually disagree with you. I think what you're saying isn't justice.
Oh my God.
Because what you are doing is creating a defense for people who had no right to be here in the first place, so that taxpayers have to spend money on someone who's not going to be here after this. And if you look at the case of Abrego Garcia, this guy, what was the due process that was failed? He was supposed to get what's called a USCIS official interview.
False.
To make it, this is under the law. This is actually
You're
not
wrong.
law.
It's
it's in the law.
Why is he citing like U.S. Customs and Immigration Enforcement? He's trying to cite particular things, and he didn't even know what law this guy was deported under. What? You've already shown that you don't know anything about the details of this case. Why the f are you trying to cite particular processes or procedures with relation to immigration hearings?
CFR.
I don't have my phone on me.
So it's 8 CFR. The
withholding of
24
deportation
sub
law
08
states that if an individual receives a USCIS interview that determines the circumstances of their home country has changed, they can be deported. Withholding is void.
8 CFR 224. Look it up. So you go to sub F on that statute, or it's a regulation. It is not the province of USCIS to determine whether someone's going to be,
You have to go back to the immigration judge.
Yeah, you have to go to IJ judge. You have to go to immigration judge.
It would be
Pull up
immaterial.
the law on withholding of deportation, which explicitly states that a USCIS interview can determine that the circumstances of their home country has changed. I don't have my phone on me.
That's affirmatively. We're talking. So this is the problem. This is defensive relief, and so in the immigration context, you can apply affirmatively to USCIS,
right.
or you can be before an EOIR
Then
judge.
I'll say this. I concede. Let's bring him back,
There you go.
and the first thing that happens when he walks in the door is they turn him back
So I
around.
just want to be sure. You concede that it was unjust and it should be brought back and then put in removal
No.
proceedings?
Stop playing
That's
games.
what you just said.
Stop playing games.
That is what you
I am
said.
saying for the sake of argument, I will no contest your argument and say,
Okay,
at
his,
the end
but
of-
his argument was that it was an unjust and illegal deportation. So just own it.
It's pussy shit. Don't
No.
contest an argument.
that's-
Actually,
that's-
take the
Fucking A. That is pussy shit. True. Own it. He pissed. Why don't I have a piss sound effect?
I do the work, and you give the money.
That's not the piss sound effect.
argument and say
That's,
the end
that's
result.
pussy shit. Don't
No,
contest an argument.
that's-
Actually,
that's-
that's his argument.
fair. I think
That's
it's fair.
that's you engaging in semantics to change the argument
That's
I made.
pussy shit. Why don't you actually engage with the argument? Why don't you actually engage with the argument and not say, oh, I don't know, because I'm fucking backed into a corner. Now I'm just going to say, I don't really care.
What this guy does
The
is
meta.
he plays semantic
What he
games
does.
with the ideas being presented. So
I wonder when the last time I've accused somebody of playing semantics. I don't think it's a good argument. When you're talking legal stuff, the semantic understanding is sometimes essential. That's really important. like people say semantics, I think, when they maybe mean like equivocation. So for instance, if I say like, I don't even know in the context here. This argument is so lost. Equivocating is when you kind of use a word that doesn't really centrally mean what you're kind of getting at. You're kind of like playing games here. So like, I think Dan kind of like bullied his wife. And let's say that what we all know about Dan is that Dan actually like beat the shit out of her with brass knuckles, right? He bullied his wife. That's hardcore equivocation. He physically assaulted her, okay, at the least. Every time I hear somebody bring up semantics, I did see what time was that. Usually they just don't know what they're talking about, and then they get frustrated and they just want to say, oh, that's semantic. You're not having a semantic disagreement here. You just don't know the facts of anything you're talking about. And as a result, you're also having major disagreements on substance. But
is being presented so that he can try and finagle out of when he's backed into a corner.
So how am I backed into? So I understand the proposition to be,
Because
is the deportation unjust?
the
And
end
wait.
result-
I understand the proposition to
The
be.
end result of Abrego Garcia's return to this country is immediate expedited removal.
So I
What the fuck is the point?
So I
Waste
heard
our
you.
fucking time.
So I just want to be clear. I understood the proposition.
and the counter question should be, oh, okay, fine. Then let's say that would have been the end result. Then why didn't they just do it right the first time? Huh?
I understood the proposition that you laid. I listened very carefully. Said, is it just and should it be brought back? And you just said, okay, I guess it should be. It was unjust. It should be brought back.
The point is, it's called a moot point when you are
the debate
arguing something
proposition
that's
is a moot point?
immaterial to the end result of what we're trying
The
to
debate
accomplish.
proposition is a moot point. I just want to hear you say
So you're
that.
playing
Tim,
semantic
Tim.
games
Okay.
again. You're
Oh, we're
playing
not?
He's
semantic
playing semantic games for using the term that you just brought up. You just brought up moot point.
Thought this-
games
I
again.
also heard everyone else said this is debate. Come to the arena debate. You guys are coping. You know
We
you
are-
can
True,
we are
true.
debating.
They're coping.
Bite
They're
the
true.
bullet.
Can I say
wait,
something?
Yeah,
Let's get
I supposedly am debating here, right? I don't even remember that was supposed to happen. So the resolution was
All right, let him
supposed to
talk. Let him talk.
The resolution was supposed to be, is the deportation profoundly unjust, right? And there's a reason for that adverb, right? It's
Oh
because
my God.
there is a mild injustice that happens whenever the law is not followed, right? So, unless there is like some dramatic reason to not follow the law in a particular instance, there's usually a mild injustice. I think that the more interesting, and the funny thing is the Trump administration has conceded to this since the beginning of the filings. Right?
Yep.
The Trump administration
They
conceded
have.
from the outset that
Yep.
this was administrative error, that they should have gotten the withholding of removal lifted before they removed him to El Salvador.
Not good.
I don't think that's the most interesting question, because it's a question that like even the Trump administration agrees to for the most part.
Well, no, that's correct. He is right here, but he's about to be very fucking wrong. He's right that the interesting question isn't, did they fuck up? Because they did fuck up, and they admitted they fucked up. The interesting question is, what can we make them do to bring him back? That's the real interesting question. The fake interesting question he's about to ask is something like, well, would he have been deported otherwise? Or if he comes back, won't he just get deported again? Or was justice ultimately served? It's going to be some retarded shit that he's going to say.
I think the question is this a profound injustice? And I think the answer to that is obviously no, for the reasons I laid out at the beginning, right? I think I'd like to actually hear your argument for why this is a profound injustice and not merely a mild one.
And I want to make.
The Trump admin didn't admit it in court filings. They said it in a press release. The attorney that said in oral arguments that it was a mistake was fired. Well, oral arguments are part of the court's record, and the attorney did say that it was an error in the oral arguments, right? So I tried to make the distinction earlier. It was an attorney that said it technically, but.
I'd like to actually hear your argument for why this is a profound injustice and not merely a mild one.
And I want to make one little point though, Bisco. When it comes to Abrego Garcia, and I personally think this is an isolated incident, but even if you are right, I'll concede that I think, I ideologically, even though you and I are different on this subject, I do feel like that he didn't get his, due process. But, and I had to debate this on college campuses, it is hard. But in this instance with Abrego Garcia, I think it's isolated, and I don't think that it's a massive problem. I mean, that's what I think about this, but I do concede.
They go entwined. This question is like, who really cares, right? Who really cares? One guy, whatever.
Well, it's kind of like you're George Floyd. They're making this guy to be like a hero, and it's one incident, and it's bad, but he's not a hero, and he still, beat his wife. So it just kind of sucks
None of that
even though
matters.
you are
Immaterial
right in this
as fuck.
instance. I don't want to be like the left because they say that the means, the ends justify the means, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want to break the law to get the outcome that we want.
So I want to be clear. I'm going to give you a hot take. This is worse than the George Floyd situation. This is worse.
Well, they're laughing, Pisco, because these guys don't even think the George Floyd situation was a real situation at all. So
George Floyd situation. And I'll tell you why.
Okay, wow. Yeah, one's in the chat. One's in the chat.
I don't know from
Let's let him
what
talk. This is
perspective that could
interesting.
possibly be right. Like, it doesn't matter how you come down on George Floyd. The valence of George Floyd is bigger on either
So
side.
I understand. So I take the assumption.
Yeah,
and
let him talk. Let him talk, guys.
And I do believe that George Floyd was murdered. I watched that entire trial. I think it's clear that they're...
Fentanyl, but okay, go ahead. But let's let him say.
Yeah, no, you should listen to the pulmonary cardiologist, his testimony. Yeah.
Let him talk. Let him talk. Let's hear this.
Yeah.
Guys, he's about to make a good point.
So-
I'm interested in this.
So,
Let's
so
hear it.
this is why I do think that even though that there's a history of cop violence, not just on black people, on people of all races, whatever, and it's a problem in the United States. I think that it doesn't present the same kind of civilizational problems that are presented by what the Trump administration is doing here. What they're trying to do here is put people outside of the contours of U.S. law. We have prisons in the United States. We have prisons in the United States for the worst of the worst. We spend money on it. The reason why we need to send them to Sicat or to El Salvador is quite simply because Trump doesn't want to be hemmed in by the law. And that, when the president of the United States, when the strongest person in the country is saying things like, for example, I want to do this to U.S. criminals. I want to use it for
he
U.S.
said
citizens.
that. I said earlier that Pisco should bring up the fact that Trump said that he filed an EO to not count naturalized citizens as actual citizens. That's probably what he's citing here is actually probably even a stronger argument. That what Trump actually said was that he wants to be able to send the homegrown ones there too. That's even more unhinged.
Believe him. I believe that he wants to do that.
How about this, Pisco? You and I both know Guantanamo Bay. There are people that are being held there without due process. We're not losing sleep over that. I don't see the left. And that was done by Obama, kept that when he said he campaigned, I'm going to shut down Guantanamo Bay, yet he's still here.
I like how Obama is responsible for Guantanamo Bay because he didn't close it when it was a Republican, George Bush, that started it. But okay, Chief, that's a real tricky, sneaky game there, I guess.
What's wrong?
Derek Chauvin did nothing wrong, and he is held unjustly.
That's wrong. That's wrong. But that's wrong. But let's just. I want to ask you guys, if
Epic,
Trump
dude. Epic.
sends U.S. citizens abroad to Sicat, you'd have a problem with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know about that. As a different form instead of using a U.S. prison?
Yeah.
I don't know why it's any different than our private prison industry that's a scam.
So
Just send them to a prison.
This is the danger.
Yeah, so.
This is the danger. Trump is selling. Trump is testing.
And we got 2 minutes left, and then we're about to get into the debate. So go ahead.
Trump is testing this theory, and he's telling you in advance he wants to apply it to U.S. citizens. And just like Obama, one of the things I respect about Tim Pool is he's aware of the kinds of violations that occurred under Rumsfeld, under the neocons, under Barack Obama, under Trump Term 1, and that very same rationale that applied to Guantanamo Bay, that applied to the deprivations of due process in Abu Ghraib, surely that applies to Trump version 2. And I don't see a kind of exceptional circumstance in this case that would justify breaking the law.
Well, before we go to the members, Will, do you want to take the last point?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I think the argument that this is ultimately going to
This
lead
is
to
a
U.S.
retard
citizen deportation
screaming.
is just a really bad slippery slope argument. I don't think that's true. I think that there's so many other remedies that are available to U.S. citizens that it's not going to happen.
It's such a dog shit argument. So wait, is this Will Chamberlain guy? Is he like a conservative media guy or what? They're all like this. It's just such crazy. It's just such shamelessness. Like, oh, this is a slippery slope. Would Trump ever really do this? As Trump has continued to slide down the slope over and over and over again, as Trump has gotten more and more unhinged with the things that he's doing, with Republicans backing him every single step of the way. Like, excuse me?
I think that the...
You want to send U.S. citizens to Sicat?
Well,
There it is.
Who decides? That's the question. Do we just trust Trump and
Yes.
his Kash Patel to say who the terrorists are?
I
What
know
image are you?
Pisco, with any sort of prison, I mean, there's levels of crime would decide.
But there's also levels of review, right? So
There is levels of
one of the
review,
reasons
but-
why Tim, I think, in good faith, is against the death penalty is he understands the propensity for courts, yes, even courts with full review, to get shit wrong sometimes. In this case, I think that you should be fearful of a purely executive discretion on who is a terrorist sufficient to make a big hole in due process.
And here's where I want to make one last point, right? And this is why I think the slippery slope argument is bad. It'd be one thing if the Trump administration was hiding that it had made this administrative error from the beginning, but from the outset, from the very first filing in court,
What an unbelievable fucking Trump cocksucker. This guy, I guarantee you that this dude went into the fucking Amazonian rainforest with 15 Shaolin monks to train his throat for months to be able to take every single inch of that orange spray painted cock down his fucking throat so that he could come out here and show us how good he could suck his daddy off on stage. To say that they admitted to the error when the attorney that did was fucking fired for it is an insanely incorrect, like, outright fucking lie. It is so... Sorry, maybe that's not what he was going to say, and that was all necessary. Sorry, hold on.
this is why I think the slippery slope argument is bad. It'd be one thing if the Trump administration was hiding that it had made this administrative error from the beginning, but from the outset, from the very first filing in court, from the first declaration, the Trump administration was like, we made a mistake. It was an administrative error. He should have had his withholding and removal lifted. So, he didn't fire the guy who made the declaration, right? He made the, he fired the attorney, but he didn't fire
They suspended the guy who admitted it, and
they suspended the attorney, but not the
Stephen Miller is
declaration.
saying it was a mistake. Stephen Miller's lying about the
Stephen
Supreme Court
Miller's
decision, and you agree that Trump could get him back if he wanted to.
I mean, I think
Yes,
he
absolutely.
could. I just don't. I think it's beyond the judicial power to order.
Whether it's beyond the judicial power to order, since you said it was unjust, why wouldn't you want him to right the wrong that you acknowledge?
Here's how I would have him do that, right? Like, and one of two ways: either a Zoom hearing or a hearing in the American Embassy in San Salvador.
That was-
right? You resolve the problem. You resolve the problem by just having the hearing to lift the withholding of removal.
But the Supreme Court said facilitate his release in custody in El Salvador.
Yeah,
And
they said that, and it's like I think they're acting on a rush basis. They haven't been very clear about what they mean by facilitate, and neither is Judge Zinnes, frankly.
I mean, because that's an incredibly hairy issue that they probably want to reprimand to the lower courts to allow the government and the court to figure out without them just coming by and saying it directly. That's an incredibly hairy issue for the Supreme Court to just 100% take ownership over, obviously. He probably knows this, but whatever.
So I think the solution here is, whatever, while they're litigating what exactly facilitate means in this context, you just go ahead and handle the withholding of removal issue. He's going to lose on it.
And he's not, first of all, I just want to address that real quick because I want to address the issues of collateral estoppel and the issues and issue preclusion. That's a legal term of art, but for the lawyers who are eventually going to watch this, the bond hearing is only related to the issue of whether or not he's in the moment a danger to the community. It's not a finding of the court that is able to apply and have binding precedent on any other determination. Furthermore, the basic contours of due process and collateral estoppel require there to be a vigorous process where the issues were really held. They didn't have the opportunity to cross-examine any of the witnesses. An anonymous witness on two forms, one of which is like blatantly wrong and contradictory. They said they picked him up for murder, and so the issue of collateral estoppel, there's no collateral estoppel.
I mean, I think in the context of an immigration proceeding, I think it would, you can't suddenly take a criminal standard of
Okay, that's 30
Proof.
minutes, but we'll let you wrap
Thank you, guys.
it up. Yeah.
And then just
okay.
the second issue of withholding, it's clear under the regulations and under the due process clause, you are allowed to bring up, if just says the burden of the proof is going to be on the government to show that the country conditions have changed so that Barrio 18 is like no longer a threat because Bukele is just fucking Superman or whatever. He's going to have additional opportunities to argue other withholding arguments, one of which is now that he's been identified by Bukele by name, he has a very strong argument that he's going to be actually a target of persecution by Bukele and the administration and the state, which I think is actually a stronger argument than the Barrio 18 argument.
Let's roll.
All right, guys, now let's get it on. That was our introductory debate. You guys kind of got your palate, Well, now we need the palate cleanse. You got your little taste of what tonight's going to be about. So, guys, what's going to happen is that we're going to pick people up. We're going to kind of mix it up. So, first, we're going to start with Donnie Dossie. But, Donnie, what's going to happen is you're going to come up here. You're going to get a minute uninterrupted to talk about whatever prompt you want. We have this prompt. We're just going to use your because you're the first one. And then, after you make that argument, then you're going to come up here, and that's when we're going to have the back-and-forth dialogue. So, you got 1 minute. And then, hopefully just give us your best 1 minute elevator pitch on your topic and why you think you're right. Then you get the 4 minutes back and forth. You get to freaking argue with the most famous
And if we like
guy
you, you stay. But if you suck,
on
Huck's gonna
YouTube.
kick you out.
If I suck, I suck.
And so your 1 minute starts. Let me get the timer out. So we
Just
get
go
this
for it. He'll start it.
Yeah, ready, set, debate, or say your topic.
So this withholding of removal thing that I keep hearing about. Granted, I admit I'm not a lawyer or anything. I also, I didn't actually read the Supreme Court ruling or anything. But my understanding of the withholding of removal is this makes it illegal for them to have deported Garcia to El Salvador. It did not grant him permanent residency within the United States.
No one said
it
it
also
did.
not outlaw ability to deport him to another country. So
It was
I'm kind of
good, but-
confused on where the confusion. Okay, I get it. A mistake was made. He was accidentally deported to El Salvador. So what happens from that point? We go ahead and we bring him back. How do we bring him back? What if Bukele isn't willing to relinquish him to us? How do we go about getting
Like, the fact that they're throwing up roadblocks before it's even been tried, and also the fact that please don't ever pretend that this is an argument that's proffered in good faith. This is a joke fucking argument. What if the president of the United States of America can't compel, no offense to anybody listening, but El Salvador to return somebody? Give me a fucking break. The guy who is supposed to be able to stand up to the entire fucking world, to Putin, to Russia, everything else, buckles under the fear of El Salvador? Come on.
them back? Are we supposed to send in the military and go take them by force and bring them back here just so that way we can detain them and deport them again anyways? None of that makes sense to me.
Yeah!
That's kind of my point.
All right,
Well, come on up, and then we can tell you why you're wrong.
I mean, that's my position too, mostly. So nice to meet you too.
Well, let's roll. I mean, what was
sure.
wrong?
Happy to. First of all, thank you guys. I know that we disagree on stuff, but I really appreciate y'all coming here. I think it's a really important topic, due process, and so I think it's awesome for.
If I could say real quick, kudos to you, man.
Thank you.
Big balls. Come up here, go up against these three, and an entire fucking room of people that are opposing you. That's strong.
Okay, you don't need to kiss his ass. Let's,
I appreciate
let's go.
it. So I think the first, I'm going to deal in reverse order. The first thing is how can we actually get that done? I think everyone, if they're being honest with themselves, because you guys are honest people, should admit that Trump could, if he wanted to,
Easily.
get Gilmar Garcia back.
Without
he
even using
recently,
force.
as
Come
this
on.
week, said he could get him back. So we believe in terms of practicality, the president of the United States could get him back, right?
I mean, I concede he could because he does have a lot of sway and
There we go.
Bukele
So you
wants to
agree with
work
that,
him.
right?
He wants to work with him, but then at the same time, this also keeps Bukele in the spotlight.
Yeah, I
and
know.
he likes being in the spotlight.
But let's not talk about questions of could. Let's talk about questions of should, because I don't really think that you can make a strong argument that he couldn't.
I don't really think
Actually-
that he needs to waste his time on it.
Well, hang on, I just want to give Will an opportunity.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think my point is that there's Article 2 prerogatives that he actually does need to protect. And so in a world where Article 3 is sort of in this vague game of trying to order him to return him,
This is
I
a
would
good point.
say no.
So I want to give Will his credit because it is the case. There are, as the Supreme Court held, limits, Article 3 limits on their ability to infringe on the Article 2 prerogatives. And I agree with some of these.
Maybe Pisco strategically grants some of this to seem like he's more in good faith or whatever, but nobody is asking for the court to order Donald Trump to say that the court has written an order saying Donald Trump must conduct military strikes on El Salvador. Nobody's saying that the court needs to issue anything even remotely that strong. I don't even like making these concessions, but
if the Supreme Court said to Trump, hey, you have to go send in spec ops to take this guy
yes.
out.
Thank you. Yes, that would be a problem, but we're not even close to that. Thank you. Fuck. Why does nobody in media know anything? I feel, God, there's 3 people that I can even fucking stand to watch, okay? Pisco's one of them because he's read and he understands. Oh, Jesus.
I would
Like this, this is truly, he shouldn't even have to say this. This is a waste of a fucking argument. Like, we should have educated people arguing the actual interesting arguments here, but it's not. It's just fucking retarded shit all constantly.
that's unconstitutional for them to order that. So I do agree that there are some limits here, but that's a question of whether the court can order the remedy, not a question about what Trump could do.
Well, no, because there's an odd element to this too, and I think that you're eliding. The odd argument is that in a world where the Supreme Court is attempting to encroach on his power with vague orders, and Trump accedes to it, that sets a precedent.
Like, oh God, and I hope Pisco brings it up. I hope Pisco brings it up, right? We have to recognize that this argument that he's using, he is on an incredibly argument here. If I understand it correctly, when people say we don't want Article 3 infringing Article 2, they're saying that they don't want the courts to be telling the president necessarily like how to do his job, okay? Excuse me, what do you mean by that? Well, the courts can't simply tell the president that he has to launch a military strike to get somebody else back. Excuse me, if he shouldn't have deported the person in the first place, and they've ruled that that was an illegal deportation, and they're trying to get him back, why, they can't order that at all? No, never. Okay, gotcha. Hypothetical time. Trump deports 10 U.S. citizens to El Salvador. What's your argument for the court not being able to order Trump to bring those citizens back? Are they actually feckless here as well? Can they say nothing? Like, because if that's the case, then what you've just created is, okay, well, whoa, I just woke up and I'm on a night flight over the Pacific Ocean and I've got federal agents that are threatening to murder me if I don't give them some piece of information. What are you going to do? Well, the federal courts have no jurisdiction because of Article 3 infringing Article 2. They're outside of the U.S. territory now. Now it's a military operation. You can't order. Oh, well, fuck. Oh, well, fuck. U.S. presidents this whole time just needed this one simple trick to torture and murder U.S. citizens is to just move them out of the country. This one simple trick. Like, come on.
For what the court can do going forward. And so, I mean, and since we're in this area of like core Article 2 power, why I think I think Trump should do, as I said, I think the remedy here is this hearing in El Salvador. But I think Trump should resist any sort of attempt to say, oh, you're ordering me to negotiate with the Salvadoran government to bring him back. I'm not going to do that until you give that up.
We also need to address what it means to what the phrase "could bring him back" means, and this would mean that Trump would need to negotiate with Bukele to some degree. And I also believe it's fair to say that while Trump could bring him back, the resistance is going to be tremendous.
What?
Bukele is going to have to concede to his nation, I have released an MS-13 gang member because I was pressured by a foreign country.
That's right.
Bro, I'm sorry, do you think El Salvadorians are all as retarded as you are? That they're under some delusion that Bukele has the ability to say anything to Donald Trump when it comes to saying no? Like, what?
So
Correct.
Trump could
Also
get
a
him
good
back,
point.
but
Absolutely.
Trump's going to have to come in like,
We can't
here's
do
what
that.
we'll give you. We'll give you this. We'll give you that. Things that the Supreme Court can't order him to guarantee.
Bukele has like what, 90% approval in El Salvador? I've had a client from El Salvador before, and I don't want to underplay the
Because
problem that
he's
gang.
hard on them.
What's that?
Because he's hard on crime. He's hard on gang.
So I want to be clear. Like my client that I once had, he was absolutely a victim to the gang violence. It was endemic, and it was just unlivable in El Salvador. So I don't want to underplay the degree to which gang violence matters. It absolutely does. But he is not. His approval rating, is to the max. The notion that he would face some kind of humongous
And the
pushback.
very second that he softens on that, his approval rating's going to go down.
You don't think he's like
You
okay,
guys don't even know what the fuck he's done. You have no idea about anything. His approval rating is untouchable with you retards. Like, how could he even, like...
we gave it back because we want to make a good relation with the president. That's not going to affect his approval rating such that it's going to material. Come on, this is all a joke. If Trump wanted him back,
Pisco, I want to do some Socratic dialogue
Yeah,
with
go
you
for it, go
because
for it.
you did a lot
Yes, I
earlier.
did, yes, go for it.
So let's do some Socratic dialogue. Imagine a different hypothetical. Let's imagine a world where the United States had an illegal member of La Cosa Nostra in detention.
Yep.
And somehow he had managed to acquire withholding removal from an immigration judge. Maybe that information got hidden about him being in La Cosa Nostra, whatever. Okay, got a withholding of removal to Italy.
So like Italy, yeah.
Okay, the Italy hypothetical. And then,
That's 4 minutes, Donnie. Dude,
Let's.
you
And
What? Can you let him finish the hypothetical, or...
any final thoughts before
yeah,
we go?
but Donnie, you spent
They'll do it right after he steps off.
a minute of it
questions, good
kissing Pisco's
Yeah,
ass.
I shouldn't be kissing his ass. I was just trying to talk about, I'm impressed that he got up here, but at the
I
same time,
respect it.
he's fucking
Well,
wrong
we're impressed
all
that
around.
you're here,
That's
too.
where I'm at.
But I do agree. I do tremendously respect you being here, man. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, we do appreciate it. Okay, now, guys, obviously, no, thank you, Donnie. Great job. And so, guys, you're going to be able to come up here. So try to interject a little bit. I know, Donnie, it's tough being the first one, so don't beat yourself up. You actually did a good job. Thank you. You're the virgin. We just, you took our virginity. So thank you. So, well, Alex Jones, we're about to get into Alex Jones, but it's funny because we're getting heckled by. Let's be real, guys. This is a sausage fest, I mean, it is. But we do have a few ladies here. So next up, I want one of those beautiful ladies from the audience to come on down. So do we have a lady that wants to come up here? Do we have a lady? Yeah, come on. Come on. Yes, come on. Get up there. You have to come up. Yeah. If you're here, guys, you're susceptible to being chosen and get up there. So just say anything. Just come up for a minute. If you suck for the minute, you get kicked off.
Jesus.
You don't have a choice. Just come up here. Don't be scared. You're going to go viral. You got Tim Pool.
Let's try. Let's just for the sake of time.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, if you're going to be a chicken, bok. Well, like, listen. You came here. You put on that dress. You wanted to be seen. Let's see it.
Let's grab who we have.
All right. So let's go with somebody that's different. Is John Gordon here? We got a John Gordon in the audience. No. Okay.
He wanted to be here.
What about Connor York? Do we have a Connor York in the audience? All right, no. What about a Sam Lipton? Do we have a Sam Lipton in the audience? None of that. Is there anybody that's liberal or, has a different viewpoint than us that wants to come up here?
Well, it's different, but it's...
Okay, well, then you come up here. What's your name?
Jesus.
Stork is what people call me.
Stork. Okay. Did you submit? Did you do an official submission? Okay, I'll find it. So,
Well, go for it.
You got your 1 minute.
Let him deal the timer in. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, if I can get it in before he gets the timer going. Okay, so I believe he is slightly wrong. I believe you are mostly correct. And I believe all of this is a fact that they denied him his Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial when he was denied essentially all of the processing that would have been needed when he had the stay of deportation. So he should have been sent to another place. In addition to that, most of immigration is actually screwed up because we have not filed a writ of mandamus against the federal government for not processing all of these people who are stuck in immigration limbo for 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they should be doing their job and getting them the hell out of the country.
I think.
Come on down. Take a seat.
Come on down.
I could be wrong on this. Actually, I'm totally guessing here. So Kafka or whatever, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you talk about the right to a speedy trial, I think that's a right more on what you don't want is you don't want people being detained and then waiting for years and years for the government to try a case while you're awaiting trial, basically. I think this is kind of the concept behind, or one of the reasons why catch and release works. Like if somebody's caught and then they try to claim asylum and you give them a ticket to show up at a court, if they're not being held anywhere, I don't think it's the same speedy trial argument per se. Speedy trials are just supposed to ensure that oh, we've arrested you, but don't worry, you've got due process and everything, and you're going to stand trial for your crimes, and the next available trial date is 8 years from now while you sit and rot in prison. Good luck. Or jail, I guess. Yeah. I think that's more what the speedy trial stuff is about, but...
I mean, I don't...
Sixth Amendment doesn't apply. It's not a criminal punishment.
The Sixth Amendment applies.
So it's not a Sixth Amendment issue.
It's a civil removal.
And you can't get a writ of mandamus. Number one is these judges are executive branch officials. So
you can get a federal writ of mandamus.
You sure can get a writ of mandamus against executive branch officials, but right now they're all under Trump, and so
Can a court order more judges being hired for cases like that, or does that have to be a law? I think this needs to be legal stuff. This was part of what the Biden bill would have done. This is part of what the Biden bill would have done that they were trying to do, or I shouldn't call the Biden bill, it's technically Lankford's bill, but the immigration one is would have hired a lot more of these immigration judges to hear these cases and work through the backlog.
If Trump could just order them to do whatever you want the writ of mandamus.
Why do MAGA dipshits constantly say J6ers were denied due process and a speedy trial? Criminal cases can take a long time if you're trying to build a strong, especially... Well, I was going to say especially affirmative defense, for any defense. Every time they said that a J6er was denied due process, when I looked it up, it was usually them, the J6er themselves, that were continuing cases or appealing or doing whatever. I couldn't find any examples of any of that denied due process shit. Every time they bring an example up and I look it up, it's always a lie, so. Dean talking about you? Based, link me.
They're all under Trump, and so if Trump could just order them to do whatever you want the writ of mandamus to do,
that's democracy.
But all I mean is to say is I think that this is properly understood as a due process issue.
If the writ of mandamus was actually filed under the previous administration, then they would be obligated to do what it is they need to do.
That sounds like it's the Article 3 judges encroaching on the executive branch prerogatives.
Yeah, I think it actually, and in this context, it probably would be because we actually, this is Like, I agree. Yeah, there's an Article 2 prerogative to manage immigration and enforce immigration laws. You can fail to enforce to such a degree that it would be like mandamusable by somebody, but then there's all sorts of like other questions.
I want to cut a deal real quick with Democrats. I will advocate for the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia to this country for his.
I'll advocate for him to come back for his immediate deportation if you advocate for Derek Chauvin to be released from his unjust imprisonment.
Hearing. If we also simultaneously get a hearing on the extrajudicial assassinations Barack Obama committed.
Oh, sorry, my bad. I forgot. He's always unhinged about Barack Obama. My bad.
Wait, let's talk about that.
The same thing, actually. So, writ of mandamus for.
So let's talk about that, because you might think, and I understand this point. Like, first of all, he was a U.S. citizen, right? That's number one, and he was killed. Al-Awlaki, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Anwar al-Awlaki is a great example, but Abdul Rahman is a better example.
Okay. Talk about that case.
Abdul Rahman is was a 16-year-old American citizen, was not a part of any terror organizations. The Obama administration ordered a drone strike on a civilian cafe in Yemen, a country we're not at war with, blowing it up, killing a bunch of people, including him, and they've admitted to it.
Yep. Well, it's not that. Wait, how am I getting biolabs from biolabs? Oh, they just make biolabs. How cringe. Sorry. It's not just that we weren't at war with Yemen. I think it's because he was part of Al-Qaeda, right? That was the issue. But whatever.
I don't think you necessarily disagree with me. That's why I said Democrats. I'm not directing at you. I know that if I went to Democratic politicians and said, you see this as an injustice, I believe that in the end the courts will prevail as it pertains to Abrego Garcia. So I'm willing to say, okay, let's spend that money, but you got to give me something. Yeah, let's have justice. Obama goes to prisons.
The only reason that I would say that's a problem is I believe there's a statute of limitations on what it is you can file a writ of mandamus for. And
is there a statute of limitations on murder?
I don't think there is in this case, but when you're talking about military actions or something like that, there may.
But he's not talking about specific writ. He's just saying in general.
A writ of mandamus, you sue the government essentially for inaction, and that's what the problem is. We have to.
But he's not talking about a particular remedy. He's saying, I'm willing to publicly support X in exchange for Democrats giving them.
Yeah, and so I will also concede there's probably, and you guys will respond to this better than me, some kind of immunity Obama has where he's going to say, this was a military strike with intelligence. We didn't intend to kill an American, but we did. So he may have some immunity from criminal prosecution.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to win a.
No, that's fine. I think you can still get wrongful death or something like that.
I mean, he absolutely has
the
president has absolutely. I mean, you would have like a civil suit against the government.
You could. They tried it.
Unfortunately, I don't know if he has any surviving family members left because they also killed them.
Indeed. No, but my argument in the long form is actually impeach him, convict him, and then now that he's no longer immune, you go after him.
But the court has already, so in the Trump versus United States case, which I totally disagree with.
Hold on.
Yeah,
impeach him first.
Yeah.
Convict him in the impeachment.
Yeah.
Which he's no longer immune to the murder.
So the Supreme Court specifically rejected that impeachment judgment clause argument in Trump versus United States. So there's a couple arguments. So one was the inherent structure of the Constitution makes it that we have certain degrees of absolute immunity for core executive acts that are part of your core executive powers. But there was an argument additionally that Trump said that, well, I'm not immune under those theories, or alternatively, I'm immune until you impeach and remove me. That's under the impeachment judgment clause. But the Supreme Court unanimously held that that was not the case. So you don't need to impeach someone to trigger criminal immunity and remove them. That's been rejected. But it's a good question. Would I support a hearing that looks at the executive power and its use on U.S. citizens when they get killed? Absolutely.
What's evil about that Peyton dude? My partner watches him. He's just a huge virtue signaler, which is the worst type of fucking human being you can be, ever.
That's 4 minutes. So, Stork, thank you. Anything you want to say before you go? All right, give it up for Stork. Now, guys, when you come up, you got 1 minute. Make sure to get on the mic. Okay, now this next guy.
Why don't we just have them, if we don't know, like some people did or didn't show up, why don't we have them raise their hands and then see who is prepared to come
Okay, well, I know this guy's here because this guy's insane. I love this guy. No, I want to call up David Tiny Flora. So, David, come on down. Tiny, it's your turn. Come on down, Tiny.
Oh, he's coming.
Tiny, come on. Yeah, give it up for Tiny. Not exactly that tiny, I'll tell you that much. The man's huge. He's built like a damn refrigerator. Look at him. Come in here, sir. Now get up on that mic. You know how to get up on things. Come on. We want to hear you. Maybe make it taller. Damn.
You can pick the mic up and take it with you.
Damn. All right, you got 1 minute.
Get up on that thing for you, Alex. $20.
No, I'm not gay. I don't play that way. Maybe Pisco.
$20, $20, bro.
Yeah, well, I'm worth a lot more. I'm a pimp on a plant, dude. You know what I mean? I don't need $20. But let's, you got 1 minute. What do you want to say, Tony?
All right, so what I want to discuss, you guys actually touched on it briefly.
Sorry, you just get close to the mic.
Hold on.
So what I want to discuss, and you guys actually talked about it or touched on it briefly, was actually the, I guess, sale of U.S. citizens to private prison industry in the United States, and how that would be any different than selling U.S. citizens to CCOT, for example. I believe that there's already a precedent that's set in the United States where we do pass or sell inmates along, from my personal knowledge working as a corrections officer for a few years, and I believe that it would be as simple as creating a territory or creating CCOT.
Would it not matter that Obama did that with the recent Supreme Court ruling about presidential immunity? The reason why it doesn't matter is because it probably wasn't illegal when Obama did it. Most likely.
a territory within, I'm sorry, creating a territory within CCOT that is ran by the BOP?
I think it's a wonderful question.
All right,
and
sit
so,
down.
for those who didn't hear, he asked, what about the comparison to private prisons, the fact that we outsource and contract private entities to take on the responsibilities of the government, specifically with incarceration of individuals, both of, for crimes and immigration.
Wait, but Pisco, I want to say, I'm more surprised that a guy with prison tattoos was that eloquent. I mean, I
Very
can't
eloquent.
believe that. Where did that?
Are you in
Where did you come
Sorry.
from?
I'm seeing those
Oh,
nipples.
he's got the skull cane, he's got the marijuana leaf. I mean, damn, dude.
That's so fun.
That's gangster
That's
as
the M,
hell.
right?
It's a great question.
The underside's actually the fireman's prayer.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but you do have a weed flower on your arm, though,
True,
right?
that's the M.
Most
That's the
definitely.
M.
Yeah,
That's
Hey,
the-
talk into the mic. We want to hear you, Tiny. Okay, your clock starts
Yes, sir.
now, so yeah, go
It's a
ahead. Sorry,
fantastic
Pisco.
thing to say because I think it's all for us. It's exactly the comparison. Bukele is being used as a contractor, and that plays into my argument and the argument of the plaintiffs, which is Bukele is not exercising the sovereign power of El Salvador by keeping Abrego Garcia in detention. He is being contracted by the U.S. government to hold him. Now I know there's an
That's just
argument.
not true,
There's an
though.
argument that they're only paying money for the Venezuelans. That's all a fugazi. It's all a lie. Obviously he's working at the behest of the U.S.
Hold on,
government.
more Socratic dialogue.
Go for it. Go for it.
If under normal circumstances, Joe Biden had sent back a Salvadoran gang member,
Yep.
illegal alien, to Bukele, right? And say there was some financial arrangement even between Bukele, not necessarily related to this particular person, but there was a financial arrangement. Is then suddenly, if there's some problem, is he able to demand that he be sent back to the United States?
So I think that there's an existing contractual relationship, an existing constructive custody, you would argue, that this person is continually, it's not like one and done event. It's why is this person in, I don't actually think he's in Secot anymore. I think they transferred him out someplace else. But why is he in custody in the first place? Is he being in custody because he's being charged with a crime by Bukele? Is he being, why is he in fact in prison? And the truth is, or in wherever he is, it's because he's acting at the behest of America. And everyone kind of knows it. And the fact that we all
think
kind of
that's false.
acknowledge...
Well,
I don't think that's true
I
at
have
all.
a question for you, Pisco. What is the legal process for imprisoning someone in El Salvador?
I don't know. What is that process?
Me
It
neither.
seems very...
We don't know.
Why you're
It
bringing
seems
up a
bare
foreign
bones.
country's criminal justice system
Oh
for their
my
own
God.
citizens?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the internal domestic process in El Salvador?
Yes.
Yeah, it's at the whims of the dictator.
So, are there other dictators that you're concerned about in other parts of the
100%
world
I am. Yes,
that
I am.
you don't frequently debate about?
Well, I don't frequently debate about it when it...
I don't think we have to be so
relates to
chauvinist to assume that every country's, process system being different, especially El Salvador, which has had 30 years of gang violence, for them to be like, no, sorry, you have gang tattoos, you're going to jail.
But I don't even think we need to argue that, because I think that there is a moral worldview difference between us, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, in that my view is, hey, we're America, we take care of America. If El Salvador's being shitty, I mean, that's El Salvador, and this guy's their citizen in their country. If they decide to put him in prison, that's not our fucking problem.
Yeah, but you're ignoring the process of how he got there and how... Yeah,
It's so, again, if I asked this of Christy Nome, can we just give him his hearing and be done with it, because we know that in the end we are correct? And her response was, it's out of our jurisdiction now anyway.
So I have a
Nice.
question.
Yeah.
Kind of bring it back to what we were discussing here, right? I think we kind of went a little further. So we already run programs very similar
Destiny vs. Dean, let's go. Why did he say okay? Listen, if he wants to.
here
he
in
even
the
has me
United
on
States.
Discord.
The 187G program, Sheriff Chuck Jenkins up in Frederick County, Maryland, has been running that for many years now, and has been very successful prior to the Trump
In the United
administration.
States, right?
Very correct.
I agree.
But my point is, those inmates, he is being compensated by the United States government to house them in a special wing. His deputies are deputized as federal marshals
Correct.
or federal agents. Why would it be any different if we rented out a wing in CCOT and sent inmates there? No differently than what we do now.
Well, two things. One is, I think that your description of that relationship is completely correct. I think that's exactly what's happening with Bukele there, in the sense that, yes, the U.S. government is contracting a party to enforce immigration law. But the reason why it's different is the deprivation for which due process applies is the physical removal from the country. And so when you deport him to another place, you've now done the deprivation for which there is due process. And so that's my answer to that is, in theory, I guess I wouldn't have a problem with the law of contracting like some foreigner. I don't like it, but legally I don't know if that's a problem.
That's
But
it.
go
That's
ahead.
your time. All
I just want to point out real quick, this guy right here is a Maryland man with
Maryland
knuckle
tattoo.
tattoos.
Yeah.
Love it.
What do you do for a living, Tiny? What do you do? Do you mind saying? What do you do?
No comment.
Damn, that means he sells weed, is what that means. All right. Now, actually, I got some information that, even though it is a little bit of a sausage party, that I think we have a lady with the courage to step up to the microphone. So with that being said, yeah, okay, I said lady. What I...
That's gratuitous.
I missed.
Now, with all that being said, let's welcome
Yeah, I
the
missed
one,
the
the
joke,
only,
or the name.
Indoctrinate! Give her a round of applause, guys. Come on.
Thank you. Oh my God. It is such a fucking sausage party. Also, I want to say you're pissing me off, Pisco, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to say this without getting angry. Okay. If Kilmar comes back,
You're talking to the mic. Sorry.
Sorry,
You're talking real close to the mic.
can you hear me?
Pull it up. Take it off, because we're recording this, so we can't use you if we can't hear. So talking to
you.
the mic.
Thank you, T-Bone. So, all right. First of all, this guy's name is Kilmar. Like, he sounds fucking crazy. Like, it's frightening as fuck.
Epic, hilarious.
Okay.
I mean, he is like just
Uninterrupted,
demonstrably.
uninterrupted. Let it
So,
go.
I'm from Maryland.
No.
Okay, so I was born and raised in Maryland. Shout out to Maryland. Woo! Shout out to the East Coasters in here. All right, let me tell you something about MS-13. All right, if this guy comes back, he's gonna be beating his wife, beating others, and back to the bullshit. All the trafficking,
That was in like
everything he's up to
2019,
that,
but okay.
you know, is alleged. He's gonna be back on his bullshit and even bigger. I don't think, you know, I'll speak for myself, but I don't think my community wants or desires to bring those characters back. We are extremely happy for their deportations, and we are extremely happy that he can't come back, that he's trapped in El Salvador.
All right, Zach, come on, great job.
This is. I was waiting for a question like this because this strikes at the moral perspective, not the fact-based legal perspective. And so there's this air of we can't deport people like this because it's a slippery slope that results in injustice elsewhere. That strikes at a procedural, legal, slippery slope, a lot of things. But it doesn't ask the moral questions a community wants answered. In that, if this was the 1800s, they'd have thrown this motherfucker out of town.
He would have been lynched.
And if he came back,
he would have been lynched.
they would have fucking killed this guy if he came back. I don't want that to happen to anybody. But the point is, the way communities treat people who wrong them, there is a question there. So
I almost think Pisco should force a concession. Like, hold on. Just to be clear, you understand that our understanding, our conceptualization of law and holding people accountable for crimes has improved since then, right? What we do now is better than that process that you just called out, right? Like, otherwise, why would you even... I don't know why you would even reference that process, but...
I appreciate what you're asking
we
about the
hate
moral
it.
question. What's the answer there?
We hate it, okay? Go ahead, no.
So you brought up the lynching. I just want to say, because I think that's an interesting point. I think there is a moral dimension to procedural questions, but I'm going to ignore it for the purpose of this because I do think that, I don't know if you guys ever watched The Hateful Eight. It's my favorite Tarantino movie, and one of the characters says that's frontier justice, and that's frontier justice. And the reason why we don't agree with that on a moral dimension is you're just as likely, you're likely to be wrong sometimes. And so here's my question for you: is Kilmar Abrego Garcia innocent until proven guilty of the crimes that the media is alleging him of doing?
He doesn't get to be judged by those terms because he's not a citizen of the United States.
Oh my God, dude, that's so cringe.
I just want to be clear. Do you believe either it is the case or it ought to be the case that non-U.S. citizens should not have trials for the crimes they're accused of?
I think that what you're referencing is like a waste of our money. So we should not be. There's no reason to bring him here, do all this bullshit. We've paid enough in Maryland, okay?
So the answer, no, you don't think non-citizens should get trials for the crimes they're
That's
accused
a
of?
loaded question.
How is it a loaded question? That's the opposite of a loaded question. That's just a direct question. It was a simple question. Do you think that do you think that people who are non-citizens should have trials for crimes? That's it. That's not loaded at all. It's a fair question.
Because the issue is, should somebody who lives in this country, permanent residents, versus an illegal immigrant adjudicated as MS-13, whose penalty is deportation. Right, here's the point. If someone comes here and breaks the law, and the end result is going to be deportation, how do we have a trial for them when they're gone? Why?
The end result for breaking the law in the United States is not deportation. I don't know where he's getting this from or where he got this idea from. It's very fucking weird.
Force them to stay here if we're going to remove them anyway. So,
these are people who hate America, hate our community, they hate abiding by the law, they hate us, they hate U.S. citizens, and they just mooch and mooch and mooch while literally terrorizing our community and tearing us apart. They're like agent provocateurs.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that an illegal immigrant should get their due process? That doesn't mean jury trial. It means the standard legal process that is fair under the law for determining whether they're a citizen.
No, I mean, yeah.
I think no, in that the original crime being that they came to this country illegally.
But that's what I'm asking you. The due process I'm asking if you would accept is, a man is walking down the street, the cops stop him. The due process here is, we must determine if he's a citizen or not. Should they do that?
They should determine if he's a citizen or not.
Under what process? Who do you trust to determine who's a citizen?
Border Patrol. I actually got pulled over by Border Patrol recently, and they did a great job.
Here's the problem. When you put a hole
What a crazy simp.
in due process, this is why I don't agree with these categorical exceptions. Once you put one hole in due process, now the government, just by their own discretion, is going to put everyone they don't like in that hole.
If you
They're
have
gonna
nothing,
accuse
no. If you have nothing to hide, you should have
That's
no
classic
fucking...
neocon language.
Wow. If you have nothing to hide, then you should have no problem with the government digging through all your shit. Pisco should just own that, say, true, let's expand the ATF. We should have lists. The ATF should have an electronic database. We should have a better understanding of who has firearms in this country. Boom. If you have nothing to hide, there should be an issue, right? Oh, what's that? I'm sorry, you think the government would abuse of an electronic database of gun owners, but you don't think the government would abuse who they can deport or not? Really?
What the fuck
classic
are you
neocon
talking about?
language,
If you have
classic
nothing to
Patriot
hide,
Act language.
being pulled
classic
over by Border Patrol shouldn't be frightening.
What makes America great, right, is our structure, our Constitution, our way of life. So one of the people will often bring up to me the Carter Page FISA warrants that the Department of Justice got on Carter Page. You guys remember this, the Russiagate stuff,
By people,
right?
he means
Those Carter
Rob
Page
North.
warrants were wrongfully obtained. And you guys cared about them. Why do you care about them? You care about them because you don't want the government to intrude. This isn't even a matter of detention. It's not a matter of execution. I assume that you care. It's called a rhetorical. It's called, hey, dipshit. Hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question.
Bro, you gotta
dipshit.
come up.
Hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question. Hey, dipshit. It's called a rhetorical question. You ever heard of it? Wait. So yes or no? Yes or no? Have you ever heard of a rhetorical
Don't call
question?
him a dipshit.
Dipshit.
Don't call him a dipshit.
But yes or no? Have you heard of a rhetorical question?
Wait. We will ask you to come up because
Yeah, that's 4 minutes for Dr. Nate. But
let's
wrap up.
if you've got a little bit more because we kind of went off. Just if you
No, seriously though, what do you say, Pisco, to the communities in Silver Spring, Gaithersburg, these communities who have for the last 40 years been inundated with these illegal immigrants and dreamers?
Freedom. This is what I say. I say freedom isn't free. Every time we give a trial, every time we give a trial to someone who's an accused rapist, an accused murderer, it costs the state and the people of Maryland a lot of money. But the reason we do that is when we don't, we live at the discretion. When we don't, we live at the discretion of the state, and you shouldn't be government bootlicking shills that just trust the government to do everything you want.
True.
and while I can agree with the government chill stuff, what I will say is it's the only thing I heard there was it's not in my fucking backyard, so I don't give a shit.
Thank you.
That is bullshit. That is complete bullshit.
How much illegal immigration is going on up in Maryland? Like, what? Is it? Do they all get up there somehow? Is that?
Bullshit. That's a cop out.
Bro, I'm
Omar to
gonna
your
tell you
house.
guys something I shouldn't fucking say. I've got property in the area with MS-13 now trying to occupy it. I had to fucking contact the FBI.
I don't believe this for a microsecond. Oh my God.
And so I've got these liberals who don't live here, who don't know that there are gunshots, that there are people running scared, and they're saying, bring this guy back. Now, I'm a pause.
Tim literally lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. In the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, it's the kind of place where you can't get an Uber anywhere because it's like so out of bounds.
I don't want false warrants or bullshit. The reason why I asked about due process under the law is for an illegal immigrant, if they're stopped, like you got stopped by CBP, the law as it is now is an officer makes a determination if they're a citizen or not, and they have expedited removal, I believe, within 2 years. And I was talking to Myron Gaines about this the other day. He was an ICE agent, and he says, often we lock them up, get a plane, they send them home.
But that's a great
the due
point, Tim.
process. That's the due process.
This is a great point.
Real quick, we don't need a criminal trial after we say get the fuck out.
Wait.
Exactly.
When did you hear me? I just want to be clear. When did you hear me say that we need a trial? In fact, I went and I said JD Vance is a fucking liar because he says we're asking for trials. What you just talked about, this proceeding in front of a judge, and really for expedited removal, it's not. It doesn't. It's usually like not even default a judge. It's just an immigration officer.
Agreed. That's
so
right.
we're not talking here about a ton of due process.
And
we're
I
not
agree with
talking
you on
about.
that.
So all we're talking about here are minimum standards. They didn't even they didn't give a notice before they left. They're trying to say that
You're
you can
saying
give
freedom
24-hour
isn't
notice.
free, but you want them to stay here on our
Listen,
dime.
So it's costly, right? Having freedom is
What the fuck?
having.
Nobody wants
You
to
understand
pay
this?
that.
You understand this? Freedom is costly. The freedom of speech is costly. The freedom to bear, have guns.
Then make El
is
Salvador costly,
pay.
pay.
Yeah. So, but what is Trump doing? Trump is not making El Salvador pay. Trump is paying El Salvador. Trump is paying El Salvador when really he is entitled under our own law, right? Congress passes a law. Congress passes the Immigration Nationality Act, and it says we're going to bind the executive to these rules. What good is our country? What good is our society if we don't follow the rules we set for ourselves? Surely we must follow the law.
I want to say something, and I'm curious to hear Will's response. Let me say something, and then I want to hear Will's response to this. I love the founding fathers. They were brilliant people.
Oh my God,
They put
shut the fuck
together
up.
the best government we've seen.